Hi, welcome to Iron Health Talk with Dr. Akram. I am Akram. In this program, we'll be talking about all kind of different health issues with different experts in the field. But today we're going to talk about food and nutrition. So sit back, relax, and enjoy your time. Well, there's a lot about food. Food is a major part of our life. A lot of people in the world, especially in developing part, the women might spend the whole day preparing food, looking for food, and cooking for food. So that is really important. But if you think about when you are ill, you end up in a hospital. And in hospital, what kind of food you get? I did some internet search, and it says 60% of the patients said the food is bad, it tastes like paper, tastes like plastic, and it's horrible. And when you are ill, food is really important. Important to build up your immune system and fight against the organisms you are fighting yourselves. It is necessary for you to have a balanced diet when you are ill in the hospital. I have been researching a lot about it. Then I decided to go to the Harlow, Princess Alexandra Hospital, Harlow, in the restaurant behind the scene and investigate what's happening there. And that's the time I find out there is an alternative story. Whatever you find in the internet is not always true. It's better to look a little bit more behind. So today in the show, we have invited our chef from the hospital. It's Andreas Winger. He was working in mainstream Michelin restaurants before. Then he decided to work in health sector. And he has a story behind it, why he likes health sector. And please welcome on our show, Andreas Winger.
Dr. Akram, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on your show today.
Andreas, thank you very much. I like your suit.
My suit, nearly as good as a doctor's suit, right?
Yeah, it's white.
It's white, it's shiny, it's cleaned.
But you should have come with your hat.
Next time.
Next time.
I'll bring my hat.
That's very nice. Andreas, okay, tell us about you.
So, I have been a chef for a good 25 years now. I did my apprenticeship in Germany, and subsequently I spent 15 years traveling through Europe, France, Spain, ended up in the UK, working mainly in Michelin restaurants. Yes, and then after my son was born, after my daughter was born, I didn't really have time to see them. So I thought I need to change something, and I need to take my skills and use them somewhere basically where they're needed. And I started with a private healthcare company and thought, okay, if I can make patients better with food, that's a good alternative to a Michelin restaurant. So, and then the company I worked for won a contract to run a part of an NHS trust, and that was the first time that I engaged with the NHS, and I could build a new system from the ground up. So basically had a blank sheet of paper, what do you want to do, Andreas? So I've done a plan of what I wanted to do. It had to be fresh food, locally sourced, using your local butcher, your local greengrocer, and really using the community around the food. Yes, and then it was all about training the chefs, creating recipes, creating menus, and looking after patients, and the results were great. It gave me a lot of satisfaction.
Andreas, that's why you are here.
That's why I'm here.
Right? Because I've been eating in your restaurant, and I thought, this food is, it tastes like restaurant food, but you pay really a mere amount of the money. And I started asking about from the front staff, and they said, what's the difference in this hospital food? And I made interest, and I met you. And of course, I came behind the scene and I filmed as well. I will show that a bit later. Okay, why did you choose a career as a chef? What was your motive behind it?
I mean, my motive behind it, so number one is I like food and I like eating. That was already a good start. My mom always cooked really nice food, and I remember one day when I was, I think, 13, I drove past a huge hotel beautiful white hotel, and I thought, I'm just going to ask if I can do my work experience here. So I knocked on the door. I said, can I do my work experience? The chef laughed at me. He said, why you're not 13 or you're 12? And I said, yes, but in 5 years I can do my work experience. And I'll come back in 5 years. So I knocked back on the doors 5 years later. And that really was my beginning. And then I had done my first working shifts. And I think you can bring happiness to people with food, right? It's a really good meal, a good shared meal is a nice way to engage with people.
Have you been inspired by someone to do this? You have anyone in the family, or it just came?
It
it's
just
like that?
came. The liking. My first I wanted to become a lorry driver. I probably would have cooked a little, some sausage and beans on the side of the road. That would have been it. But yeah, then as when I had a look into the hotel scene, I found a lot of enjoyment in it. Yeah, it was really good.
That's amazing. How many kind of people or patients eat in your hospital restaurants today?
So the hospital, we've got nearly 500 beds, so we've got 500 patients to look after. The hospital employs 3,500 staff, so we do have a nice busy restaurant. In the moment it's not as busy as you can imagine, but normally we probably do another 600, 700 meals in the restaurant a day.
So you do a 600 to 700 meals in a day?
Yeah, well that's for the restaurant, and then for the patient side it's breakfast, lunch and dinner for 500.
I don't think in a
day.
Michelin restaurant you would cook that much.
That would be a very busy kitchen. I mean, you can see our kitchen. We've got 12 chefs in our kitchen.
12 chefs.
Yeah, I went to Paris, to Le Maurice, to one of the best 3 Michelin restaurants in the world, and they had 48 chefs for a 40-seater restaurant. Okay, so 40 seats, 48 chefs.
Wow.
But everything is a lot of work, and they still spend 12, 14, 16 hours in the kitchen preparing.
In the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work.
Anyway, this is a live program. If you have any questions, you can call us on 0203 515 5788, or you could write to us on healthtalk@iontv.co.uk. You can follow us on our Facebook, our Twitter, or Instagram link, Ion Health Talk with Dr. Akram. But now we're going to talk more about it. I think you, of course, you will have some more questions. You would have been in the hospital and you would have had pleasant experience or bad experience. You could come out with your opinions. But now, let's go back to Andreas. Okay. Let me talk about some search I've done in internet, right? What it says, staff admit they wouldn't eat what they serve.
So I've heard this very often in the past, that staff wouldn't eat what they're serving to the patient, and that, to be honest, that's a sad scene. I wouldn't want to be responsible for creating food where not even the staff wants to serve it, and it's all a little bit of a vicious cycle, right? So, as a chef, you come to work, you want to cook great food, and you want people to enjoy your food. Yeah? So if you're not being given the tools and the ingredients and the possibilities to create great food, I can give you an example from another hospital I used to before. Management didn't support the kitchen. There was no support to say, yep, okay, we're cooking fresh food, we train our chefs, we give them courses so they can develop. That wasn't there. And then they cooked food which they didn't like, the patients didn't like it, the staff didn't like it, and you as a chef, you're not very well regarded in that hospital. You're like, you can't even cook a meal. But when we then changed all the menus and we started serving fresh food, and all of a sudden the staff asked, oh, what's happened here? Oh, this tastes really good.
Yes.
And then we started doing tastings on the ward with the nurses and with the patients, and yeah, but if you.
So you do food tastings in the ward as well with patients?
I did in that in my last hospital. Yes.
In your last hospital.
In this hospital at the Prince Alexandra, I haven't done it yet.
Right.
But we have regular feedback, so we go and see the patients. We go and talk to them if they like the food. Yeah.
So when have you started changing the menu? What period was it?
So I came to 2.5 years ago. I came to the Princess Alexandra, and we've started a new freshly cooked menu. And then we went a little bit up and down through a few cycles of trying to refine it. And we're going to launch our 3rd menu now, probably in a month's time, or 2 weeks to 4 weeks. yeah, and like to change, keep changing it with the seasons.
Yeah, food, you can't eat the same food every day, isn't it?
No, I mean, we are quite lucky because normally your average stay in hospital
Yeah.
is 3.5 days, right? So, and ideally we don't see the same patient all the time, right?
Same patients. Yeah.
But when we have patients who are staying longer, they can ask us to cook special meals for them. Our chefs go to see the patients and ask them what they would like to eat. So it's just a bit of personal service, really.
Food is major part in healthcare, isn't it?
It is. It is. Food in the UK, healthcare is a little bit disjointed from the healthcare. You've got great British medical healthcare, right? But food always sits next to it. Where in some European countries you have food in the middle, and it's a vital part of you getting better, and it should be, right? And unfortunately here in hospitals, for example, I don't think medical staff sees food necessarily as a great part of getting better, you know? Everybody knows that it is, but it's not regarded as that.
It is kind of ignored. It hasn't been given that importance.
Yeah, and then that also then creates with not having really great customer service at ward level, I guess.
Ward level.
If nobody's interested in it, then it's really hard to look after a patient, in my view.
Okay, let's talk about your success in this Harlow Hospital. How did you manage to cook nice food, like a restaurant quality, and of course, when you sell for staff, you're giving for about £4,
Yes.
£4.25 or
Yes,
something like
yeah,
that.
so we do. Yeah, that's a good price to pay.
How come? If I had the same food outside in a town centre, that food must be probably about
around
15 to
12,
£20
yeah,
minimum.
Yeah. So I think as a hospital, food has a little bit of a wider purpose, right? So if you are looking after your staff and you make sure your staff gets nutritious food and they've got a great area where they can have conversations, it actually is better in the long run. So you don't measure the success in the amount of food you sell and the money you get for it, but you measure how many people are not going off sick, how many people enjoying coming to work, how many people have learned maybe something about food what they use in their own life, to make them better. So I think you can build a community around good food in a hospital. If you have really bad food, a lot of people go across the road and get themselves a Greggs sausage roll, which should not really happen.
That's true, actually. A friend of mine
Nothing
who works,
against Greggs, though.
a friend of mine who works in a hospital in Kent, and he always goes to down the road and finds to some of these fast food places and get the food.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, so I think hospital staff, it's a little bit like kitchens. You have a lot of pressurized areas, right? So in a hotel, the kitchen is the most pressured area.
That's true.
In a hospital, it's a theater, right? That's where the shouting happens and the stress happens, right? And you need a lot of time when you're stressed, you want something sugary, something that's really bad for you, chips, chocolate, sugary drink, because it picks you up. But I think it's about educating your staff to actually look after themselves.
That's why this program is here for. We are trying to give the most important information through you, because you are the expert in the food industry.
Yes,
right?
I am.
So that's our plan. Anyway, what are the challenges working as a chef in the hospital?
I think especially in these days, you have lots of different patients with different needs. That one of the challenges is actually to get the right order of the patients and then get it back up, because quite often that can get missed somewhere around. So people can miss food allergies, people can move a bed around, and then it's not the same patient in the same area, and all of a sudden a patient gets the wrong meal. So these are like some of the common challenges. And then I think is the trust or the hospital where you work and supportive of making sure you've got the right equipment, you've got the right amount of staff, you can develop your staff, so that's all plays part of it.
Andreas, we're going to go for a quick break because it's our time for commercials. And anyway, if anybody joined, today we're talking about food and nutrition, and we have our special guest here, Andreas Wingert. He's a chef in one of the Essex hospitals. We'll see you shortly after the break. Hi, welcome back to Iron Health Talk with Dr. Akram. In this program, we are talking about food and nutrition. So far, we just based upon the hospital food, and well, according to the internet, 60% of the people would say the hospital food is bad. But we're trying to educate people and say it's not always the same. And in our studio, our head chef, Andreas Wingert, is here. He's from Princess Alexandra Hospital, Harlow, Essex, United Kingdom. Anyway, Andreas, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay.
Again for some more.
Okay, let's see what you're doing behind the scene.
Yes.
Yeah? We're going to play a video and see what we were doing yesterday. Hi, welcome to Harlow Hospital restaurant. Now it's 6 o'clock, everybody's gone.
Kitchen is clean.
The kitchen is clean, everybody's gone, and the chef is here. He's going to be our guest on the show, and we're going to talk a lot about how to cook a healthy food. This is Andreas Wingert, and he's in his chef uniform. It looks quite awesome. It's really nice. Okay, Andreas, what did you cook today?
What did I cook today? Well, we had in the restaurant, we had some salmon steaks today. We did nice katsu chicken curry. So we take nice chicken breast, pan it with panko breadcrumbs, make a nice coconut curry sauce with it. Example of this is one of our vegetable fridges. If you look inside now. Nice lots of butternut squash there. Herbs on the top.
Do you cook everything from fresh here?
We cook everything fresh. I mean, obviously there are some products like peas, etc. They're just better frozen. But apart from that, we cook everything fresh. So we don't have any ready meals. Sometimes texture modified diets we use, frozen ones. But apart from that, everything is homemade.
What about for patients?
Yes, for patients especially. So I think for me, being in a hospital, it's actually, let's start with the patients. That should be fresh. And then we can look after everything else. But yes, all our patient menus are fresh. We do fresh soup, cook all the meals fresh, pudding. Manos, what are you cooking there?
Stir fry, prawn chicken stir fry.
Ah, yummy, yummy, yummy.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
This gentleman, Ricky.
Ricky.
Gentleman, Ricky, don't worry.
Wow. This is from
This
fresh
was-
potatoes.
Yes, yes. Beautiful fish pie mix for our patients. Getting chopped up in little beautiful pie dishes by Dr. Ricky. The patients now is doing fish pies, so we do nice individual fish pies. Fish pie mix, nice mash on top. So I think the future of hospital food needs to be fresh. You know, food is such a vital part of getting better, and strangely enough, in the UK, sometimes that's a little bit disjointed because you've got great medical care here, and then food sits somewhere on the side. Where it should be great medical care and food sits in the middle, because everybody of us needs food to survive, right? If we don't eat, if we don't get the right nutrition, it makes us sick.
And how much do you charge for a meal here?
So for our staff, we only charge, so we charge £4.25 for a fish or a meat dish, whatever you like. So you have a protein with some side vegetables or grains. And for vegetarian dish, £3.95. We don't need to make a lot of money, we need to cover our costs. We're not here to rip our staff off. We're here to make sure our staff is well nourished to be able to work in a proper manner. And I think food brings a bigger benefit, right? So you shouldn't look at making the money with the food from your staff. You should invest in their well-being, so there will be less of sick, they will work better. It also creates a community, right? You meet in a restaurant, you meet with somebody for lunch, you have a chat, it's open, you know, conversations are flowing. That's what's needed, you know, a good hospital built around good food. You see, I spent 15 years in Michelin restaurants. Did my apprenticeship in Germany, and then after my daughter was born, I was working 80-90 hours a week. And I thought, what can I do with my skill? And I thought, well, I joined a private healthcare group, which subsequently took over an NHS hospital. And that's where I got my hands on the NHS the first time. I thought, you know what, you can really make You know, people come to your restaurant, they pay a lot of money. I spend all day in the kitchen, I work hard. They come, they've got so much money. You send them a perfect dish, they still moan. Yeah, it's a little bit underdone, overdone, whatever. Yeah. In a hospital, if you give a patient a great meal which tastes good, it doesn't need to look fancy, it needs to be good, nourishing food, tasty. Because there's really only two types of food: tasty food, not so tasty food. That's how it is.
Well, I feel hungry, Andreas. What were you cooking there?
So yesterday we did a beautiful stir fry with prawns and chicken for the restaurant. That went down really a storm. Yeah, we've got a 2-week menu in the restaurant, which we would return or turn over at the moment every 2 weeks. Yeah, but if we get special offers,
It's a prawn stir fry.
prawn stir
And
fry.
all fresh vegetables.
All fresh vegetables. I mean, you saw that he was opening back, but we bought like the stir fry veg fresh from our suppliers. Can take quite a while to cut like stir fry veg for like 600 portions of
That's
food.
reasonable,
That's
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, but that's been cut in a factory or something, but it comes as
Yeah,
fresh.
it's from our vegetable supplier. So he's local.
Yeah.
They've got people and machines. They cut a veg all day long, and they have a special stir fry mix, and you can order the stir fry mix. Makes it a little bit easier. We just have to make
That
it
looks
nice.
really nice. It's for a restaurant. I think even I haven't seen behind the scene what's happening there. So that was really amazing. Anyway, what is the importance of cooking fresh vegetables? Why is it?
So I think it's not just about fresh vegetables. I had a conversation with a nutritionist once, and we had a conversation about food going forward and backward, and what is healthy food, right? And she
Exactly. That's a good question.
Yeah. And she said to me, you know, Andreas, in her opinion, it was, if you cook your food yourself, it's healthy. If you want to eat a cake, bake your own cake. You won't be baking cake every day. So it's not like going to the shop every morning getting a muffin on the way to work, you know? Bake your own stuff, make your own ice cream, make your own stews, you know? And I think then, because you then use the ingredients and make it, you won't eat it every day. And that's a good balance. And I think eating vegetables in general and fruit, ideally you want them fresh because they're still alive, or more alive than they've been cooked by somebody else before, right? If you cook it, you destroy the cells, you destroy the structure. Yes, you keep some of the goodness, but you also lose a lot.
That's true.
Yeah.
What about if you go to Iceland and buy a fish pie and you have it? What's the difference with your food and fish pie made in Iceland?
So Iceland is actually quite interesting because when you look at Iceland, they can make it so cheap because they actually don't have a huge range. They focus on a few products. Quite often the food from Iceland is actually better than other main brand supermarkets because they produce it en masse. Where Iceland says we're going to do a bolognese, and they just do the bolognese and that's it. And they don't have like 10 different meats.
Yeah, I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not particular meaning about Iceland.
Just in general, frozen meals.
Any frozen
You see, some frozen meals are okay, and it depends on. So, for example, if you look at a hospital, a lot of hospitals these days, they run on a service. It's cook freeze or cook chill. So you basically get frozen meals in, and then you reheat them and serve them to a patient. At the end of the day, that's fine as well. What is important is that actually the food gets to the patient in a good manner, right? Has it been served nice? Has it been served on a good tray? Can the patient eat it? Is there somebody there to help? You know, so frozen meals are not necessarily bad. You can like frozen peas, frozen spinach. Many frozen foods are actually preserved through freezing,
Yeah.
and which keep also the goodness. So if you harvest the mango, and in let's say Sri Lanka, you harvest a nice mango at its perfect point, and then chop it up and freeze it. It's good, you know, rather than shipping it green, trying to like ripen it on the way to Europe.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a great mango, you know.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I think you need to make use of best technology, and freezing is not bad. Just depends what you put in to be frozen.
Yeah, but if you freeze a particular vegetable and you take it out, it is still okay. Rather than you go to a shop and buy a frozen meal itself, which has been cooked for a long time and maybe stayed in the shop for.
Yes, yeah. So that will be. It will have lost quite a lot of their nutrition.
Nutritional value goes
Exactly,
down, isn't it,
yes,
with time.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So it'll just fill your stomach.
it fills your stomach, and not always with the.
Since you are in the industry, do they put a lot of additives when they preserve? Or
I think that it probably matters where you buy, really. You know, you will have some people who use MSG, lots of cheap ingredients. But there's also a lot of challengers out now who actually cook really nice fresh food or cook nice frozen meals, but they're a better range because the ingredients you use are better. If you use a good ingredient from the beginning, you don't need to do a lot to make it a great dish. If you start with a cheap ingredient and with a bad ingredient, you need to put a lot of stuff in to make it taste good. You know?
what do you mean by good ingredient, for example?
So, for example, let's start a chicken. Right? If you make a dish from a chicken, from your farmer, which is next door, kill it, or you get it killed by him, but you use that to make your meal, that's good meat. But if you then start buying, for example, frozen chicken that's already been cooked and diced in Brazil, and then comes to our country, and then you make a meal with that.
Right.
You know, not only has it got the food miles come from Brazil here, and maybe the chicken is not bad, but it's not a great process.
Yeah, I think that's the important. That's why you said in the beginning of the program, you buy the food from the local producers. So that food mine from the farmer to our pot, it doesn't take that much, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important. And you will see. I think that you will see through new growing technology. Like let's look at Dubai, for example. So in Dubai, you can grow anything now. They've got shipping containers with all the LED lighting. They do all the big vertical farms where they grow salads, fresh herbs, and it's all done in a small shipping container with the right lighting and the right nutrition inside the water. So it's not even earth; it's just hydroponic plants. And I think that will, rather than shipping everything around the world, you could grow mangoes in the UK. You get yourself a couple of shipping containers, you put the right lighting in, you put nice nutrition in the water, and then you grow your food. So, and I think that will be the future. We will ship less food everywhere.
Actually, I was reading an article in the National Geographic a few years back. It's about the food wastage from the production to the consumer, especially in the Western countries. It's about 30 to 40% of the food become wastage, isn't it? Or I think it was 60%, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it is criminal. I think 40% is pretty accurate. And that comes because the supply chain is always producing. You produce more. Yeah. The humans have the ambition to make everything bigger, grow more, grow faster, create more. If you're a small farmer, let's say in South Africa, and somebody starts buying from you, that means you have more money, you can buy more land, you grow more, you export more, and that's how the world works, you know. So, but all this production needs to be also used up. And then we as consumers also have to be a little bit more mindful, I think, because we go to the supermarket and everything has to be nice and round. You know, an apple doesn't always grow nice and round.
It doesn't.
No, you know. So I think it needs to have. You need to have nature's course, and just everybody needs to take a step back and look at what we're doing to the planet as well. Yeah?
We need to understand that everything is not perfect, isn't it?
Yeah. No, nothing is perfect in life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But do you believe in the sense that that food which is produced locally is better for you than the food which is being brought from different place?
Yes, and it doesn't necessarily just have to do with local. It also has to do, for example, I know farmers. They say so to get the right yield out of your carrots, you have to spray pesticides. On the side of the pesticide box, it says this could cause cancer, right? So I know farmers. They put it on the food. They don't eat their own carrots. They've got a little vegetable patch in their back garden. They grow their own carrots without any chemicals. But if you want the perfect carrot with no wrinkly bits and no black bits and nothing, unfortunately, you need to use chemicals to make that happen.
You need to use chemicals. Yeah. It is difficult to grow vegetables without chemicals, is it?
It's less. It just yields less. It just creates
production is less.
Exactly. You just get less You just get less out of it. So then you make less money, and depending on how much you need, that's why people are using it. There are lots of alternative farmers around who actually start going back to the normal ways of farming, where you rotate herbs through the fields to make the soil good again. Yeah.
Great. Andreas, we're going to go for a short break and we're going to talk more about food. Anyway, if anyone had joined our program today, we're talking about food and nutrition and with our special guest here, Andreas Winger. Please be on the show and we're going to see you after the break. Hi, welcome back to Health Talk with Iron Health Talk with Dr. Akram. Today we're talking about food and nutrition. There is something I want to say. There is something called blue zone communities in the world. There are about 5 communities in the world. They live quite apart, but they have a common lifestyle. One is in Okinawa in Japan. There is another one, Nicoya, Costa Rica, Loma Linda, California, Sardinia, Italy, and Ikaria, Greece. Here, in these communities, people tend to live to 100 very easy. 1 in 3 people can easily live to 100. And they have very interesting lifestyle. And out of their lifestyle, the food was a major important part in their longevity. And I'm going to ask some questions from Andreas, what I have learned from there. But this video will be uploaded in the YouTube Health Talk with Dr. Akram. In case you want to learn a bit more, you can always follow it there. Andreas, this long life and good food, do you believe in it?
I do believe in it. Yes.
Okay. What I have found out from my research into these blue zone communities in the world, and these people who tend to live really long, and they were eating a traditional food which has been given to them from their forefathers. You know, they still cook the same kind of food for generations. For example, the minestrone soup in Italy, in Sardinia, that has got all the nutritions.
Yes.
Everything you need, it's there. How come it works for them? Why have we gone out from there? Then answer your next question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, minestrone soup, very traditional Italian, and actually used to be a poor man's soup, you know, where everybody just used the leftover from the harvest to make a big soup, and then at the end they threw a little bit of pasta in it. But it makes a great soup. And I think one important part is actually eating more veg. I think we all need to eat more veg and eat more, just more natural grown plants rather than eating meat. So I think if you want to eat meat, eat meat once a week. You know, eat it, but eat a good meat. So if I buy meat for my family, I'd rather buy 1 chicken a week, which costs me 15 to 20 pounds, but I know it's a really good chicken, rather than buying 2 of the cheap chickens, 2 for $5 sometimes. Yeah. And need to eat chicken every day. We don't. So, for example, like a handful of kidney beans has the same protein than a handful of steak. Yeah, but to create meat, to create a kilo or a pound of meat, you need to use something like 400 gallons of water.
As you said, the Costa Ricans, they have the best balanced diet. They eat a lot of beans, a lot of soya.
Yeah. And then, yeah, exactly. Grains, beans, nuts, oily fish, all the good things in life. No? And then I think that also comes down to taking time with your cooking. I mean, we've touched early on about sourdough. So sourdough.
Yes, sourdough. Oh,
because I'm
that
going
is
to give you a master
important.
class
You are the
one day.
master in sourdough.
So if you look at a supermarket loaf of bread, quite often it's Canadian wheat flour, really strong in gluten. They don't give it a lot of time. They make the dough, they pump it up, and then they put it in a supermarket. So your body has to do all the work. Yeah? So your body has to digest all the gluten in the flour, and that creates sometimes problems within your body. Where, for example, if you look at a traditional loaf, like a sourdough loaf.
So let's explain the sourdough,
this.
right? A bit.
Yes. So a sourdough is basically you have a ferment which you made out of water and flour. And you leave it in a warm place. On the first day, it bubbles a little bit. You put half away, then you feed it again with some flour and water. And after a couple of days, you can start seeing some
The
bubbles.
dough is a bacteria, is that?
Yeah, it's a bacteria.
It is a bacteria you grow for generations. So for in your case, you said you've been growing for
35 years.
35 years,
So
right?
I was quite lucky. I've been given a sourdough starter from a good friend of mine who runs a bakery.
So is that the sourdough older than you or younger than you?
5 years.
Okay.
5 years. 5 years younger than me.
Younger than you. Okay, great.
So, but you're right here. So basically, what happens? So you have a ferment, and when you make your bread, you use part of that ferment, then flour and water, and salt. So it only has 3 ingredients: flour, water, salt. And basically, what happens? The bacteria in the ferment starts eating the gluten. So that eats and digests the gluten. It then turns it into minerals, certain vitamins, certain folic acids, and then you basically have a healthy loaf. It's better for people who are gluten intolerant. So if you're gluten intolerant, if you eat a sourdough, your body actually doesn't react in the same way.
Same way.
Yes.
So it becomes sour because when the bacteria eats there, they produce the carbon dioxide which goes out,
Yeah.
and they make the folic acid as well.
Exactly.
The folic
yes.
acid is the one which tastes that sour,
So, yeah.
but
And the longer you leave it, the more sour it
the
gets.
advantage of it is the bread, it 30% slower it get absorbed than a normal bread.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the problem these days. Our bodies quite often run on carbohydrates, lots of
Carbohydrates,
carbs,
yeah.
right? It's empty. It's empty energy. So crisps. There was a great program. I think they were trying to burn food mixed with a gas, and then the higher the flame, the more calories are in that food.
All right, yes. Yeah.
So, and they, for example, use crisps, huge flames. They used white bread, huge flames. Coca-Cola, they tried to burn. Yeah. So that created as well huge flames. But then you start going to like your vegetables, your nuts, your seeds, and all of a sudden it gets smaller. You know, the fire gets smaller. We need to absorb our calories slow. I mean, 100 gram of nuts is the same than 100 gram of chocolate bar from a calorific point of view. But 100 gram of nuts is 10 times better.
100 gram, yeah.
Yes.
The nuts actually,
the
we are
calories
keep
are the
forgetting about the nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've been in the scene. Like if I remember my grandparents' time, we used to eat a lot of nuts.
Yeah.
And we used to eat meat once a week.
Yeah. And I think that is the right way to go. I think we can't abuse the planet so much anymore that we just grow all these animals to eat. Just to eat and kill more animals, grow more animals, use all the resources we create, like corn, maize, etc., to feed the animals. So it's not a great way to look after our planet.
Yeah, actually, I've read about this Sardinian diet. They use a lot of cabbage and kohlrabi. These actually provide enough amount of vitamin and minerals.
Yeah.
It's very rich in all this stuff, and but in caloric, it's really low. But it fills your stomach.
Yeah.
But
And
it
that's
does
a great
not
thing.
make you fat.
Yeah, so that's a great thing about a meal. You can eat a whole plate loaded to the top with veg. You roast it, you steam it, you boil it, whatever you want to do with it. Like one of my favorite salads is just to take beetroots, parsnips, carrots, sweet Brussels sprouts, a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, put it in the oven, roast it. When it comes out, I put some tahini in it and some mustard and some lemon juice. Makes the perfect salad. And it's super healthy. And I can eat a whole bowl of it, and I don't need to feel guilty.
On the other hand, the Okinawan centenarians, people who live for centuries there, they've been eating it's a vegetarian-based diet. They eat a lot of seaweeds. They used to call sea vegetables.
Yes.
and
yeah.
that's got it fills you up. It gives you lots of minerals, rich in minerals and vitamins.
Of course, I mean the sea is life, right? All sea created, all life was created out of the sea, right? So to eat sea vegetables, I like all kinds of algae. I like, but these days there's also a problem with our oceans, right? If our oceans are not clean, you then can't make use of this. So I wouldn't eat anything really out of the ocean near to Japan at the moment after their nuclear accident, right?
Accidents.
So you don't really know what that done to the planet, no?
Yeah. That's true. Let's talk about. So we talked about nuts. How much nuts do you need to eat in case for a day?
I think if you eat like 30 grams of nuts a day, that's a good start. So 30 grams is like a small pile in your hand. I think 100 grams is too much because 100 grams is nearly 550 calories.
550 calories.
So if you think you should be eating around about 2,000, let's say between 1,800 and 2,400, depending on your size and body structure. You know, 100 grams, there's your quota there for everything you should be eating in a day. You know? So you want to minimize it. Too many nuts are also not good.
Too many nuts also not good.
Because then you will put on weight. It's lots of oil. It's great. I mean, they've got great oils inside, very healthy, but it's a lot of calories. You know?
But vegetables like cabbage, you could eat a lot, isn't it?
You could eat cabbage all day long. So
Yeah.
one of my favorite cabbages is kale or cavalanero, the
Yeah.
really nice dark green. Normally the darker the green, the more nutrient rich it is. So, yeah.
The sour cabbage, especially, you can get in these Eastern European shops.
Yes, kimchi.
Yeah.
So I make kimchi at home as well as or my wife makes it quite often at home. So, and it comes from Korea. It's from the cabbage farmers because in the winter they were always starving. In the summer they had all the cabbage. So what they then started doing, they started fermenting the cabbage. So you basically wash the cabbage in salt water, then you add your ginger, your radish, chili powder, what else you want to put in it. Then you put it in in a breathable container, and then it starts fermenting. And again, the same then with the sourdough. Through the fermentation, you create folic acid, you create certain minerals, vitamins, and it becomes a really good meal. And then in the winter, they just used to use that kimchi, fry it with rice, crack an egg inside, and you've got a superb meal.
Let's talk about refined carbs
Refined carbs, yes.
and whole grain.
Refined carbs and whole grain. I mean, the thing is, so if you look at,
So refined carbs is basically the white flour.
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, yeah, or sugar.
Sugar.
Right? So refined white sugar is
Yeah.
the same than carbs. It is just refined to release the energy straight away.
So it's like a booster. You
Yeah.
eat it, your
You
body
eat
takes
it,
it,
you get it.
you get it on.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all over your fat. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I can give you a good example. A full English breakfast. If you eat a full English breakfast and you have your sausage, you have a good black pudding, you have a nice bacon, tomato, mushrooms, eggs, all great. As soon as you put a slice of toast next to it, your body will use the energy of the toast because it's super easy to burn. Yeah, great, I've got some toast, you know? And then it will store the rest. Then it stores the fat, the sausage, the everything else.
That's a good thing you
Yes,
said.
but if you don't eat the toast with it, your
Right.
body will actually use the energy of the tomato, the mushroom, the egg, the bacon, right? To burn for
That's a
energy.
good thing. I never thought. I always ask for toast.
For extra toast, probably.
But especially in the restaurants, they say, "Do you want a toast?" You know, they don't provide that toast free.
Yeah.
But they say, "Do you want a toast?" They say, "Yeah, I want toast."
Yeah, so that's a good point. But your body will burn that energy first because it's easy to burn.
Easy to
And
burn.
the body is lazy as well, right? If you can
So,
find
so
some,
that's why these refined carbs are not good for you.
yes, I think that is it. Just burns calories, or it gives you energy too quick.
Do you cook whole grains stuff?
Well, at home.
Yeah,
To be honest, I use white flour,
white flour.
but I make sourdough.
But you
So
make
that's-
sourdough,
so
yeah?
That's
Yeah,
the
you
difference.
trick it.
But
You
when I
you make
it-
the bacteria to have all the bad effect, and you eat the good stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Bad for the bacteria, good for me. Yes.
Okay, so that's good. So we need to make sourdough, right?
We've talked about this today, and
Yeah.
we've got a challenge on. But we're going to make another little video about that. But we will definitely have a sourdough masterclass.
Excellent. Andreas, it was a really interesting program. I think we talked about lots of different food habits, and we talked about the hospital food, what you cook for patients, and different habits of people from different area. We touched upon the minerals and vitamins and
It's a
everything.
big subject.
Do you have any special message for our viewers?
I think for me, number one is enjoy food, learn cooking, and support, especially in the moment, really support local businesses around you. Don't go necessarily to a biggest supermarket, find the small man.
Thank you very much, Andreas, for being in our show. It's really important. Anyway, thank you very much for all of you for being in this show. If you have any further questions, please email us to healthtalk@intv.co.uk, or you can also write to us on our Facebook or Twitter or our Instagram page. Until we see you in the next program, look after yourself. So the next program, we're going to talk about medical faculty interview. So be there. Thank you very much.